Hi, everyone, and welcome to Member Stories, our series where we feature our wonderful Trend Atelier community members. I'm joined today by Orla Langan. Orla is a Dublin-based fashion designer with a background in international sportswear, and she's been a member of the community since the start. And Orla, we're very fortunate to have you. You've been designing in the past for Fila, Puma, Lee Jeans, brands such as Sweaty Betty. You also worked with WGSN as a forecaster back in London. And you are also very involved in circular design and sustainable fashion now that you created your brand in 2017, which is at the crossroads of art, streetwear, and design, and has a futuristic twist. I think we can see a piece here in the background. And all of your garments are custom made in Dublin. You minimize waste and very much supporting a circular and ethical approach to fashion. And what's interesting about your work as well is that you have a particular interest in wearable tech. So you've been working with tech startups and helping them develop new products for their innovations. And you're about to start this amazing postgraduate program at NCAD on immersive technology. I'm sorry, let me just rephrase that. You're a professor at NCAD, but you're about to start a program in immersive technology at Dundalk Institute of Technology. So thanks so much for joining us for this episode. And so I guess I will jump to our next question then. And obviously you can speak about your work better than I do, but can you just tell us a little bit more about your work and go deeper into what I introduced?
Yeah, so I'm a small independent brand, as you said, they're based in Dublin, and I make bespoke pieces on demand, as well as I do small collections, kind of maybe 3 or 4 drops in a year to keep the volume down. And from those collections, then that's where the bespoke comes out of that, and I can custom make garments to specific needs for the customer and sizes. So it's all kind of ties in with my mantra of little or no waste. So I try to not make a huge, production line of garments, and so it's quite a tight ship. And then alongside that, another part of my work, and particularly this summer, it sort of really took off, as you introduced there, that I'm all about wearable tech. I just love the idea of combining fashion and technology. So I was approached by, a startup, and I can go into that a bit more detail as we chat here, but it's a really interesting project, and that's a big part of my work now as well, collaboration with tech startups. And so in doing my course as well, I'm really excited about that. So it's I think it's really going to throw me into a whole new area, like in terms of digital fashion design, where it's all going and leading. So I kind of feel I'm constantly evolving, and particularly this year, there's lots of changes happening, and it's really exciting. So.
That's so exciting, and seeing your journey in the community. I remember you talking about wanting, like, exploring different things, that you were sort of in a transition when you first joined the community, that you were just trying. It just seems like I can see how this year has evolved for you, that somehow merging with tech was like a kind of catalyst for you in your practice. And I can see that, and how it would enable less waste in your work, but also just put you more at the forefront of the future of fashion as both a designer, an innovator, but also an educator working with the next generation.
Yeah, that's very, well said. And I think alongside that, I'm a problem solver, and I suppose that comes from my design training. But I love taking a situation or a product and being able to sort of try and fix it and adapt it. And I think clothing is at there's huge changes, as we know, that are happening in terms of I'm even starting to think about the elderly and adaptable clothing more, and how we can improve the way we design and make garments for the good of.
That's such a future facing way of looking at things, because the numbers don't lie, and they're showing that by 2050, our population will be
Well,
already in many regions, we're not reaching replacement rates.
yeah,
So I think that's another great, perhaps next page in your book in terms of becoming more versed in adaptive fashion, which is a whole other amazing
yeah.
filter, I think, to have. And I know that if I had a child who was at an age of trying to like specialize, I would definitely, tell them go into care, or if you're designing, really factor that in. So I love that, which leads me, it's a perfect segue, I guess, in my next question, which is if you just kind of tell us a bit more about your mission, because obviously the Trend Atelier community, we bring future forecasters and designers who are very um, motivated by their role in impacting and influencing the future. And so we're very much about mission. So if you could tell us more about your mission.
Yeah, well, my innate mission is absolutely to continue to create, but to find ways of being able to create that's not going to add to the landfill crisis. It sounds so obvious, but that's really a big, huge part of the way I work. And I suppose, going forward into this course that I will be doing, which is to do with immersive technologies. Again, I seem to keep going back to this idea of, how could we make better environments in care homes for the elderly? So I'll be doing this course. I kind of feel it's like an open book now. It's like a blank page almost, that, there's no end to the possibilities of how we could, engage with our elderly, and, that it is more immersive, and, they're more engaged in terms of activities, and that's, bringing in technology into the care homes, because that is the future, and to make their world a bit of a happier place. So that's a big part. Yeah.
That's really fascinating. So it's kind of, do you think that in your practice you may introduce also designing for different, more silver generation, or as well
For the
for
more
your
senior.
clothing?
Yeah, and absolutely, that's a really good question, Geraldine. Yeah, absolutely. And like, going back to just what I touched on there, and the adaptable clothing. I think it's funny, even at the moment, I have lots of friends, their parents are quite elderly, and they're kind of giving me garments to, alter, like putting in hook and loop, details so they're easier for the carers to dress them. Absolutely. And I think, yeah, I'd love to sort of design a collection. That could be one of my next challenges to do, and actually create some really cool garments, because just because you're over 60 or 70 doesn't mean to say you want to pare back your style. So
That's that's exciting. I think I do think that is really the future. And in the community, we were going to have a guest this month in a panel who is a pioneer in disability fashion styling, but she'll join us next year. But she'll be amazing for you to
oh,
connect with. So I guess, we all have had our own journey, and as much as now we feel a greater sense of mission, maybe it's more defined, there's always challenges along the way. And could you tell us a bit more about some of the challenges that you've experienced on your journey?
yeah, well, I think definitely, gosh, I could bring it right back to when I was a designer working for brands, but I'll just kind of fast forward a bit. I think the main challenges for me as a small brand are competing with high street and fast fashion. But over the last few years, I realized I'm not competing with them, because you can't possibly compete with them. But how can I, keep creating, and not keep making more volume and having garments sitting there gathering dust on a rail? That's a huge challenge. Also, a challenge is the media coverage. It's quite difficult. It's very expensive to do photo shoots, to constantly promote yourself on social media. So I'm always trying to find new ways of being a bit more time efficient with that. Yeah, and also a huge challenge, I think, is really educating the consumer to really understanding the difference of, what it actually takes to handcraft a garment. That you're paying more for the quality of the finish, and for the fact it is bespoke and it's kind of more one-offs as opposed to being mass produced, I think so. And I think that education, starts even in school, and then third level in teaching students, imparting that knowledge of, really thinking about the environment and, eco-friendly dyes and, using dead stock fabrics as opposed to virgin fabrics. So it starts there. So I think educating, that's a huge challenge, educate the consumer, but it has to start at a very young age that it becomes just like second nature. Yeah.
Has that been a challenge for you in terms of also finding the materials and creating a process within that?
Yes, so that, and actually, and that'll lead on to, why it's absolutely brilliant to be part of this community that, I've already been introduced to, kind of platforms of newer ways of finding that material. Before I'd have to, I'd either go to shops, and then there's no transparency as to where that fabric is actually from, because they would have generally got it from a supplier. That they wouldn't go back to that supplier and say, where did that fabric come from? And that could have been from a wholesaler. So and that I suppose goes back into challenges. So absolutely, using dead stock fabrics, but that opens up another conversation, because a dead stock fabric could actually have a whole lot of polyester or viscose in it. So you're constantly asking yourself the questions, or that, can I use that in this collection because it's a dead stock fabric, but actually it's still going to sit there on a landfill because it's got a huge amount of viscose or polyester in it. So it's where, you're constantly sort of reevaluating and trying to make those decisions and choices. So that's a huge thing. Yeah.
But like peeling an onion, when I've been asked, where do I start? I'm just like, start at one place, because inevitably, once you open that door and start to take the layers off, you start to understand the complexities and then sort of the questions that you need to ask yourself. But I think in a way it's good. And I guess, yes, I mean, I know that in the community, there are a number of people who are using forecasting, but are designers like yourself. And it's true that there's been quite a lot of knowledge shared. So could you tell us a little bit more, like, as you just touched upon, about how the community's kind of been supporting you since you joined?
Yeah, well, I mean, for instance, go back on the supplier base and the fabrics. I know that you yourself, you put me in touch with Deborah, who's one of the members, and she has designed collections herself in the past and very much involved in sustainability and fashion. So I actually had a chat with her there a couple of weeks ago, and she was really helpful in giving me the name of another platform based in London that I could possibly go to, who might do smaller runs, smaller production. And you yourself, I can't remember the name of them now, but you've got two more platforms in terms of supplier base, in terms of manufacturers. So that's brilliant. So absolutely. And I know it's like when you have the time to sit down, I know we're all juggling lots of various roles and jobs, but I know that I could go into that community and, I can, see immediately, who's an expert in whatever field, and I can approach them, message them, and, get that information. So I kind of feel it's kind of made it a bit easier for me. I kind of feel I'm part of a bigger.
Yeah. And I guess it feeds into your big picture thinking. But I love that. I love it finding out when the members connect separately on calls or in the DMs, because it's just really, really great to know. And I really do want to focus more on the idea of care next year, because I think that's a huge part of the future. And even it's interesting, I read research that showed that that university young graduates who were having to look for specialisms were actually during the pandemic changing their focus, and many of them thinking of works revolving around health and care and wellness. So that was an interest. I'm diverging, but it's great. I mean, it's interesting because the platform isn't necessarily meant to be a supplier platform, but we have so many conversations that these things end up coming up anyways. But I guess I'll lead on to the last question, which is again more about you. And I guess you've answered that a little bit with saying you want to work with the elderly more, but what's next for you? Like, where can we find you? And what do you feel is the next big thing for you?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely still going to create. I think, as I said, that's innate in me. I have to keep creating. So, but now I'll be embarking on this full-time course. I'm actually taking a career break from the teaching, which is great. So I can give it more of my, full attention. So I think that course will be really, really great for me. I'm also going to keep on board the freelance work that I was doing on a consultancy basis with this company called Head Talk. They're actually really exciting. They're a new startup tech wearable brand. They've just been signed up to the New Frontiers program, which is a very big thing here in Ireland. And so they'll be invested in, and they'll get the help to get their brand, going. And I'm going to stay on board with those guys. So that's really exciting, and it really, that's kind of the area. It's sort of serendipity. It kind of happened this summer, and I was approached by someone, and so I'll continue. So that really nearly continues my love of like triangle fashion design and tech. So I'll continue to do that, and also to see what this course will. I'm not going to say I'll be amazing at everything to do from the programming and the software engineering part of the course, but I have more knowledge, and as I said, that knowledge, I hope that I'll be able to open up new pathways and maybe look at creating immersive environments, whether it's for the world of fashion, or whether it's for care homes. I still feel really strongly about that. So that's really exciting.
I love it, because I guess your knowledge, and obviously to understand pattern making, you have to have quite a detailed and technical approach, which I think obviously that mindset would translate, I think, well to going a bit into tech as well, even though you might not, like you said, be the ultimate expert, but I think you'll have like all the right detailed mindset, and it's just really great I'm always so humbled by meeting people who are at the crossroads of future forecasting, designing, education, and now you're doing a degree, and I'm quite excited of what you'll bring to the community as well, the things you'll share and during this program. And I think it's really kudos on you to take that leap of faith and take a break from the educational side of things, because that takes a lot of courage. So yeah, but I guess with great risk comes also great reward.
That's exactly it. And I just say, my mom always used to tell me to read that book by Louise Hay, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And that is another mantra that I carry through, that sometimes uncomfortable change is uncomfortable, and even at my age, but it's great. But the more you challenge yourself, I think it's really important and then you evolve, and great things start to happen, doors open, and it's a really exciting time.
My mother used to tell me something similar, and she still does, but whenever I felt really uncertain about things and uncomfortable and just unsure where things were going, she's like, this means you're on to something.
That's really good. That's
like uncertainty is actually a good place. And I used to be like, what are you talking about? This sucks. I feel like I'm floating. I don't know where I'm going. But she was always right. And as parents often are, which is really annoying as well. But it's been really great to have you, and I'm really excited for the next stages. And we will share your links and handles and everything. Just check the posts for Orla Langan for all of your Instagram and website and everything. And I guess that's it for today, but we'll see you in the communities.
I really appreciate having a chat with you here today, Geraldine, and the community. It's really been brilliant, this year. It's really helped grow my confidence, even doing this type of interview, and it's really good. So thank you.
I guess one of our goals is to help everyone with their self-confidence. I think many of us are women, but also many of us are creatives and generally sensitive, and so it's really nice to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.